From
Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I am Deepika Mehto, and coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurates multiple projects in Uttar Pradesh. Major investment announcement also includes 15 airport projects across the country. India signs historic trade agreement with four-nation EFTA bloc. Agreement paves way for investment of $100 billion in India over the next 15 years. Israel and Hamas blames each other for lack of agreement as ceasefire deal in Gaza before Ramadan looks tough to achieve. And Jurgen Klopp along with Pep Guardiola are all set to face off each other for the finals in Premier League tonight at Anfield. Liverpool currently leads Manchester City by 1 point in the latest EPL title toss. So those were the top headlines of the hour that we are tracing for all our viewers here at DD India. And now to begin with the top news of the day. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh. And during his visit, the Prime Minister inaugurated and laid the foundation stone of projects worth more than 42,000 crore rupees. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also inaugurated and laid the foundation stone of 15 airport projects across the country. Further, Prime Minister also launched projects worth over 27,000 crore rupees to strengthen rail and road infrastructure across the state. He also flagged off MEMU train service between Kazipur city, Tarighat, Dildar Nagar junction. Earlier today, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also visited an exhibition related to the development projects before attending the program. Prime Minister hailed government's efforts in the development across the state. He also accused the previous governments of damaging the image of Uttar Pradesh.
भ्रष्टाचार में डूबी परिवारवादी सरकारों में इतने बड़े पैमाने पर विकास कार्य असंभव था। पिछली सरकारों में आजमगढ़ और पूर्वांचल ने पिछड़ेपन की तकलीफ ही नहीं उठाई, बल्कि उस दौर में यहां की छवि खराब करने में भी कोई कमी नहीं छोड़ी गई। जिस तरह पहले की सरकारों में यहां आतंक को, बाहुबल को संरक्षण दिया गया, वो पूरे देश ने देखा है। इस परिस्थिति को बदलने के लिए यहां के युवाओं को नए अवसर देने के लिए भी डबल इंजन सरकार लगातार काम कर रही है।
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi also hailed the signing of agreement between India and EFTA bloc countries. As a watershed moment in the bilateral relationship between India and EFTA bloc nations, Prime Minister said that India will extend all possible support that will also facilitate industry and business not only to achieve the committed target but also flourish trade and agreement with invited investments. So in a historic first, India has signed trade agreement with EFTA nations including Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway and Switzerland. Agreement to pave way for investment of $100 billion in India over the next 15 years. Now our next report has all the details that you need to know about this unique agreement. Take a look.
India and the four-nation European Free Trade Association on Sunday signed a trade deal in India's national capital New Delhi in the presence of the country's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal and ministers of EFTA countries. Addressing the event, Minister Goyal stated that the trade agreement symbolizes our shared commitment to open, fair and equitable trade.
The trade agreement symbolizes our shared commitment to open, fair, equitable trade as well as generating growth and employment for the youth. In the last 10 years, India's economy has taken a quantum leap, moving from being the world's 11th largest economy to the 5th largest. Through wide-ranging reforms, we have enhanced the ease of doing business that has helped our nation touch new heights in business, manufacturing and exports. India will extend all possible support to EFTA countries and facilitate industry and businesses.
The European Free Trade Association is the intergovernmental organization of Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway and Switzerland. EFTA countries are not part of the European Union. India's exports to EFTA countries during 2022-2023 stood at $1.92 billion. Imports aggregated at $16.74 billion during the same period. EFTA has 29 free trade agreements with 40 partner countries including Canada, Chile, China, Mexico and Korea. Now let's take a look at some of the highlights of India-EFTA deal. India and EFTA have been negotiating the pact since 2008. Agreement has 14 chapters including trade in goods, rules of origin, intellectual property rights, trade in services, investment promotion and cooperation, government procurement, technical barriers to trade and trade facilitation. The agreement, along with greater market access, also has commitment for investment of $100 billion in India over the next 15 years to generate 1 million jobs. Countries like Switzerland have eliminated import duties on industrial goods while maintaining them on agricultural products. Deal could see a reduction of tariffs on gold, a significant demand from the trading bloc, particularly Switzerland. After the India-EFTA deal, India could see higher imports of machinery, pharmaceuticals, medical instruments and machinery, as there would be a sharp reduction in Indian tariffs. India is also looking at the EFTA deal to help diversify imports away from China. India currently depends on China for key medical imports. Free trade agreements play a key role for a fast-growing large economy like India. Along with other advantages, FTAs allow exporters access to international market at low custom duties. India has been discussing free trade agreements with several partners, both bilateral and regional. India-UK FTA negotiations are said to be at an advanced stage. India so far has inked 13 free trade agreements with its partners, the most recent ones with Mauritius, UAE and Australia.
And to discuss more on this, I am joined by DD India correspondent Jessica Taneja. Jessica, good afternoon. When we talk about this particular European free trade agreement with India, which has become a reality after so many years and around 21 roundtable meetings, what are the key highlights that we are looking through the lens of this EFTA? Jessica.
Well, the four countries of the European Free Trade Association, as you pointed out, have signed the FTA or the Trade Economic Pact with the partnership agreement with India, and that certainly holds immense potential for and growth for India's, primarily for India's services sector as well, because that is where most of the exchange happens. And if you go and look at India's trade with the other countries like Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Iceland and Norway, well, this EFTA, as you pointed out, has been in the talks since 2008, and now when you look at the firmed up details, it's interesting to see that few sectors have also been left out apart from the ones that have been included, especially when it comes to the agriculture and dairy sector, because these are the two sectors that are sensitive to both for both the EFTA countries as well as India. So keeping that out of the entire agreement, everything else has been put forth. Let me point out some of the important sectors that tend to benefit from this in the next 15 years. As you know, $100 billion worth of investment. We're looking at millions of jobs, and primarily particularly that comes in the pharma sector, the renewable energy sector, dyes, and as you also pointed out, the machinery, the expensive machinery that is imported for food processing. And now remember, a lot of India's exports is also generated from the food processing industry, and that would get a big boost, especially heavy machinery that is imported incurs a lot of costs. So with the kind of technology that these four countries offer, it could give a greater advantage to India, especially when European countries, apart from EU countries, apart from the EFTA countries, are also looking to diversify their supply chains and set up their manufacturing bases in India. Of course, given the pivot right now is China. So India technically looking like a potential economic hub, which has the demographic advantage on its side compared to many Southeast Asian nations at this point.
Indeed, Jessica, when we talk about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's message that came after soon after this, the deal was signed, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also been asserting that this is going to be a tech aid for the country, and he's also been asserting continuously on self-reliant India. What are the different benefits that the employment sector and people who are looking forward to job opportunities are going to get from this, Jessica?
Well, the services sector for one, and also the manufacturing sector would see a big boost in the coming years as India takes on the larger bulk manufacturing back home, and of course the skilled labor that would be at the back or would be supporting this through and through. So India has made commitments on those fronts as well, and as a potential economic hub, there's a lot more that has been promised through this deal, and we can see the kind of tech investments in the future, particularly in green tech. Now, if you look at Norway, the Sovereign Wealth Fund, which is the largest investment fund in the world, with investments worth 1.6 trillion. It's worth $1.6 trillion, and its investment in India so far has been close to 15 billion. So they're looking to expand that portfolio as well, looking at green technologies. Of course, the Climate Fund is a separate one. But at this point, there is huge focus on technological exchange, especially in a country like India that has been putting forth a lot of importance and impetus on tech innovation. So a lot of that exchange could benefit sectors, as I pointed out earlier, which would see a big boost.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Jessica, for joining us and bringing us a rounded perspective on the latest development, which means a lot for India, its development, GDP, and its positioning as the top third economy across the world, as it wishes to be. Thank you so much, Jessica. Moving on, over the last 10 years, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Make in India initiative has surged ahead, particularly evident in India's mobile phone production, marking an unparalleled triumph in the manufacturing sector. The sector has also transitioned from being 78% import dependent in 2014 to 97% self-sufficiency currently, as per industry body, India Cellular and Electronics Association. Now, mobile phone production has also surged from 18,900 crore rupees in the year 2014-2015 to an estimated 4,10,000 crore rupees in financial year 2024, registering an increase of almost 2,000%. Now, as per ICEA, India produced 2.45 billion units of mobile phones during this 10-year period against a goal of 2.5 billion units. And in addition to this, 2014 and 15 mobile phone exports from India, they amounted to 1,556 crore rupees. So the industry anticipates closing the financial year 2024 with an estimated export value of 1,20,000 crore rupees. Now, this exponential growth in production, exports and self-sufficiency is the result of a conducive policy environment and a close working relationship between the industry and key government ministries as well. Efforts to secure a deal on a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas in Gaza are currently ongoing. So Israel is hoping for a truce during the holy month of Ramadan or before that. Israel and Hamas, however, they blamed each other for the lack of agreement after the talks mediated by Qatar and Egypt about a 40-day ceasefire amid fears of violence could escalate during the Muslim fasting month.
Hamas has been stealing humanitarian aid and stockpiling equipment and food for Ramadan for Hamas terrorist leaders instead of the Gazan civilians in need. By refusing to release our hostages, Hamas is preventing a humanitarian ceasefire and increasing the suffering of the civilians in Gaza. Hamas wants only one thing: to escalate the Ramadan. In coordination with our partners in the United States and CENTCOM, the Central Command, we are coordinating a temporary floating pier to get more humanitarian aid to Gaza.
US President Joe Biden has said it was looking tough for a ceasefire agreement in Gaza by the start of Ramadan.
Will there be a ceasefire by Ramadan?
It's looking tough, but
Are you concerned about violence?
In latest from the conflict, IDF troops eliminated 13 terrorists and struck a terrorist cell and an underground tunnel route in the central Gaza. Additionally, in Hamas, IDF troops located AK-47s, grenades and ammunitions. In Khan Yunis, IDF troops eliminated around 17 terrorists during a series of strikes. We are moving for a short break here on DD India Live, but still to come. Mass kidnapping unfolds in Nigeria as at least 15 students were kidnapped on Saturday. World cinema all set to witness a glamorous night at the 96th Academy Awards. And India's Satwik-Chirag duo sails into men's doubles final of French Open. Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India Live with me, Deepika Mehta. Now, US President Joe Biden and Donald Trump campaigned on Saturday in the US state of Georgia. That will be the first face-off of the 2024 general election. Joe Biden and Trump clashed with dueling campaign visits to the same state for the second time this year, making their pitches in battleground Georgia. Holding his event in Atlanta, Biden took aim at Trump for entertaining Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban at his Florida club in recent days. President Joe Biden reiterated his view that Trump's story of resentment, revenge and retribution was not in the best of interests for the voters.
I can tell you a lot about a person who he keeps company with. And yesterday he was hosting at his club Viktor Orban, who says he doesn't think democracy works. Call him a fantastic leader. He said the North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un wrote him a beautiful letter. He bragged about calling Xi Jinping a king. He called Putin and he said, do whatever the hell you want to our allies. I'm not making these quotes up. When he says he wants to be a dictator, I believe him.
After returning to Georgia, former US President Donald Trump said Biden is a threat to democracy.
He's a threat to democracy. I will tell you, he's a threat to democracy. Weaponize government, weaponize the FBI, weaponize the DOJ. He's a threat to democracy for other reasons also. Number one, he's grossly incompetent. Joe Biden gave the most divisive, partisan, radical, and extreme speech ever delivered by a president in that chamber, not even close.
Portugal is holding early parliamentary elections today, with voters set to elect 230 lawmakers to the National Assembly. Polls opened at 8 a.m. and will now close at 7 p.m. in the mainland. More than 10 million citizens are eligible to vote. Leaders of Portugal's political parties have wrapped up a 2-week campaign for the tight election that could end 8 years of socialist rule. The election was called after Socialist Prime Minister Antonio Costa resigned in November following an investigation into alleged illegalities in how his government handled major investments. Nigeria's spate of abductions worsened on Saturday as gunmen kidnapped at least 15 students from a school in Nigeria in a torn raid, days after about 300 children were abducted in another armed raid. Meanwhile, the army is still searching for hundreds of school children taken in the western town of Kuriga. Until Thursday's abduction, Nigeria had witnessed a lull in mass kidnappings from schools since July 2021, when some 150 students were abducted by armed men. Nearly 30 out of 300 school children who were kidnapped in Nigeria last week have escaped, according to the state officials. It is not yet clear as of which militant group is behind the kidnappings. DD India's correspondent Nabil Ahmed Rufai has more.
The kidnapping of about 300 school children in northern Nigeria is the largest mass abduction in the country in 3 years. It has devastated the West African country, which has been striving to stop such crimes, bringing back the memory of the mass abduction of nearly 300 schoolgirls in Chibok by the militant group Boko Haram 10 years ago. Eyewitnesses say the latest incident happened on Thursday when gunmen on motorcycles rode through schools and abducted dozens of students. According to school teachers and parents, the kidnapped children are between the ages of 8 and 15. One pupil was shot by the gunmen and later died while receiving treatment in a hospital. Nigerian authorities say they have deployed the police to form search parties with local residents to try and rescue the kidnapped children. The kidnapping has ignited fears among parents in northern Nigeria who are reluctant to allow their children to go to school due to the safety concerns. No group has claimed responsibility for the abduction as yet, but it is suspected that a breakaway group from Boko Haram, known as Ansaru, may be behind the abduction. Nabil Ahmed Rufai, reporting in Accra, Ghana, for DD India.
On to sports now. Top seeds and former champions Satwik-Chirag Ranki Reddy and Chirag Shetty made it to their third consecutive final of the 2024 French Open after a dominating victory over reigning world champions Kang Min-hyuk and So Swang-chi of Korea by 21-13 and 21-16 in men's doubles semi-finals in Paris. India's top duo will face Chinese Taipei's Lee Ji-yoon and Yang Po-swan in the finals on Sunday. Earlier, Lakshya Sen was defeated after being pushed into a decider in his men's singles semi-final against Thailand's Kunlavut Vitson. The Indian had edged ahead just in time to claim the first game by 22-20, but was outplayed by his Thai opponent in the second and third game to lose the match by 22-20, 13-21 and 11-21. 24-time Grand Slam champion Novak Djokovic was pushed by Alexander Vucic but held on to a victory in his first match back in Indian Wells after 5 years' absence on Saturday. Looking to capture his record 6th title in the desert area of California, the world number 1 has not competed at the tournament since 2019 as he was unable to enter the United States due to travel restrictions related to COVID-19 pandemic. But he received a warm welcome from the fans on hand for the 6-2, 5-7 and 6-3 victory. On to football, Liverpool will be up against Manchester City at Anfield on Sunday in the season-defining game of the Premier League. Jurgen Klopp's injury-hit side is leading the table but are just 1 point ahead of Man City after 27 games. Pep Guardiola's City are surging, but there is an air of destiny about Liverpool in Klopp's final few months in charge before he steps down. Klopp and Guardiola have had so many great tactical battles over the years, and if this is to be their last one, surely they will go all out to find any way that they can get an advantage with their lineups. Liverpool have Mohamed Salah available again after he returned from a hamstring issue in midweek. Manchester City will check on the fitness of Jeremy Doku and Matheus Nunes, the latter suffering a dislocated finger in their midweek victory. Preparations have ramped up on the Oscars red carpet as crews look forward to prepare for Hollywood's biggest night on Sunday. The Academy Awards crew have started putting together the big stage since Wednesday. This year's carpet theme is focused on elegance and honoring the tradition of the Academy Awards with the return of the red carpet after last year's white carpet experiment. Well, critics are expecting an explosive night for Oppenheimer at this year's annual Academy Awards. The story of the atomic bomb has been hoovering up wins this awards season and is widely tipped to win Best Picture as well. William Denslow is in New York with a preview of what we can expect at the Oscars.
In the battle at the box office between Barbie and Oppenheimer, it was Barbie that came out on top. Greta Gerwig's film became the most successful ever to be directed by a woman, pulling in around $1.4 billion at the box office. But the biggest blasts on Oscar night are expected to be generated by Oppenheimer. It's been nominated 13 times and is widely tipped to win categories including Best Picture, Best Director, that would be Christopher Nolan, and Best Actor, that would be Cillian Murphy. Cillian Murphy, though, does face some competition. Critics say the biggest rival for that category likely to be Paul Giamatti for his portrayal of a boarding school teacher in the film The Holdovers. When it comes to Best Supporting Actor, many believe that'll likely be Robert Downey Jr. for his efforts in Oppenheimer. He does face competition, though, from Ryan Gosling after he played Ken in Barbie. Even if Gosling doesn't win, don't be too disappointed though, Barbie fans. He is expected to perform this smash hit from the film, I'm Just Ken, live on Oscar night here in the US. When it comes to Best Actress, well, many critics believe that will likely be between Lily Gladstone for her performance in Killers of the Flower Moon or Emma Stone for her performance in Poor Things. When it comes to who will be looking after and will be hosting Oscar night, that will fall to the late night talk show host Jimmy Kimmel. Analysts say the Oscars are in safe hands. This is the 4th time that he'll be hosting. William Denslow in New York reporting for DD India.
That's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. We will be back as news breaks here on DD India. Till then, keep watching DD India for all the news and updates from the country and the world. Thank you so much for joining us.